Alright, this video is going over the basic UI elements and navigating in 3D space in Blender. Alright, so as compared to Maya, as I have mentioned before. So in Blender, as soon as you open it up, you'll be greeted with this screen. You can see recent files right here and new general files. If you wanted to do 2D animation, or if you want to hop right into sculpting or VFX or video editing, it's right here. VFX and video editing are not used as commonly, and certainly I wouldn't consider creating a new file based on them. The new file that we have open in the background right now is a new general file. Also, if Blender crashes for whatever reason, as it rarely does, you can recover last session here or under File, Edit, Recover, I believe. So I'll go into that a little bit more, and of course if it crashes, please come to me and I'll let you know the exact button. Alright, so clicking off of it, you can see that we're in the 3D space now. If I hop on over to Maya, just so I can give you a conceptual understanding of the difference between them, Maya opens up very similar to this, except without a cube. Zoomed out and at an approximate angle and distance like this. You can see on the left here we have our outliner, and on the right we have our channel box, modeling tools, and attribute editor. On the bottom we have a timeline, and on the top we have shelves. Along with, above that, we have all of these. We also have workspaces up to the top right here. So these are different presets, and we have different presets for what goes on up here. This is because Maya does not use a very contextual-based UI. For better and for worse. It's better for power users, but for learning and pretty much everyone else, it's kind of terrible, at least in my opinion. If we go back to Blender, you can see that the layout has been moved up here. We have something that works as a channel box right here, along with a lot of buttons on the side here. This was somewhat intimidating, as each of these is their own different menu. Then you can see up here that we have different workspaces, just as you would see in Maya. I won't go through all of them, but you can read them up there. Feel free to play around with the interface as you watch me, or watch this video in the background. So, let me just quickly press N and go into a side menu here. This is a side menu that contains a lot of extra information, and these last few are add-ons, so you probably won't see them. Let me turn on screencast keys. And now, if I press N again to hide the menu, you can see in the bottom left here that I'll be showing keys. I'll be trying to do this for every presentation from now on, so that if I miss any shortcuts, you can see them. Navigating the UI, now that I've gotten through some more of the fluff. You can see in the bottom here we have a timeline, very similar to Maya's, except it has a few less different levels, and it's a lot more compact. You can, of course, drag right here through the UI, and you can set the start and the end frame, along with what frame you're currently on right here. You also have markers and some other things that we'll get into when I start teaching the animation groups. Or if anybody is animating any objects, I'll teach them as well. So, rotating around and navigating the 3D space within Blender is quite simple. Middle mouse button allows you to orbit. If you scroll up and down, as you can see down here, you can zoom in and out. If you press Control, you can zoom in and out smoothly, and if you press Shift, you can pan left and right. Selecting objects, I press left mouse button, and I can select the object. So you can see here that I'm selecting all of these objects, and of course navigating around so I can see them easier. The sooner you get used to these controls, the much easier your life will be. So I highly suggest that you play around with Blender as you were listening to this. I believe I've already said that. My apologies. To the left here, you can see different UI elements. And I'll quickly go over the shortcuts as well as these UI elements within object mode. So if I click on an object using left mouse button, I can then press G and I can grab and move the object. So you can see after pressing X, pressing Z, or pressing Y, for whatever reason, screencast keys is not picking this up, it locks it to that movement. If I was to press R, and you can see that it's rotating, and the same laws apply, or the same rules apply of pressing X, Y, Z. Also, if I press Shift Z, it'll rotate in both of them. Well, that's odd. It doesn't work exactly like I would expect with rotation. But if I was to press G, and if I was to press Shift Z, it'll move in every direction but the Z direction. So this is how you move objects like along a flat floor, for instance, without having to go in and view everything from the top. On the left here, these are condensed into little gizmos if you want to view everything in the viewport. This last gizmo is the most powerful, and it's the most compact. So you can see how everything works there. I highly suggest playing with it, as I said before. I primarily like to use just the regular selection tool, and just being able to press G, Z, and G, S, and R. I'm sorry, I did not mention that before. You can press S and then for scaling. If you are on a pen tablet, this little set of tools up here will be most useful. This little gizmo you can press on the center and you can orbit around the object with. Here you can press to navigate or to pan the view. Here you can toggle the camera view, which puts you into the camera's viewport. This is the same as in Maya, going to panels, perspective, and then whatever camera you have set up. And then you can press this button. As you can see, hovering over it lets me know what it is. It also lets me know the shortcut, number pad 5. This allows me to switch in between orthographic and perspective views. The main difference between them is how the rays are applied. So perspective is what the human eye naturally sees and what you'll be using most often. So as you can see, as I'm panning the camera, you have a parallax effect, and you can see that these objects are warped and distorted by our perspective. So if I zoom in, you can see that the outsides flare out more, just as if you got your head really close to a very large cube. If I was to turn on orthographic mode, you can see that it changed quite a bit, and now all of the rays of the camera are shooting straight out, and so you don't get any perspective warp. This is very unnatural to our eye, but is very useful for design. Let me turn that off. In here, as you can see, these little icons also pop up, and if you were to, just like I did, these were to highlight. If you click on them, as you can see, you'll be switched to that orthographic view. You can also use the number pad keys, which are 1, 3, 7, and 9. And if you were to press Control, you'll do the inverse of such. You can also press 5 to switch in between orthographic and perspective. If I select an object and press period on the number pad, you will also focus the viewport on it. I believe that does it for the basics of That does it for the basics of navigating the UI and the 3D space. The next video will be about how to switch around panels within the view space, and how to set up and navigate to different areas. Alright? Thank you.